Good morning to all. My name is Anjali Vishwakarma. I'm professor of SIRT. So in my today's YouTube lecture, I will going to discuss about the flowchart. So if I give the little introduction, or if I give the definition, so the flowchart is a graphical representation of any information. If I'm talking about any information or any data, if I want to share this knowledge to anyone, then if I use the sentences or text, a simple text, then it will be very difficult to understand, or sometimes it is not interactive to understand. So in place of text or sentences, if I use the graphics, some images, some pictures, then it is very easy for us to understand than anything. So flowcharts are used to represent information in an interactive way. So there are different types of shapes we use to represent any information. In my uh, in my slides, I will discuss each and every shape that we use to represent information. So if I'm talking about the introduction of flowchart, so it is a graphical representation of information. As we all know that we are use algorithms. Algorithms is a step-by-step procedure to solve any question or any problem. So here those algorithm can be represented by the flowchart. By using graphics, we can represent that algorithms that provide the solution, or we can represent any problem in a form of graphic that can easily be understood by each and everyone. So it is a graphical representation of data. It is a pictorial view of pictorial way of representing steps that are preferred by most beginners level programmers to understand algorithm, because algorithm is very difficult to understand. So if we want to represent in the easiest way, then we can use flowcharts. So as I already told you, flowchart use conventionals, some shapes that will use to represent any information. So to draw a flowchart, certain rules are followed. According to rule, we can represent. So these are different types of conventional shapes that we use to represent any information. So there are lots of conventional shapes, like for rectangle, arrow, diamond like shape, parallelogram, decision like diamond like shape. These are the different types of shapes that we use to represent any information. So if I'm talking about why we use flowchart, why it is so helpful for us. So whenever any complex problem we solve, so for the beginners, it's very difficult to understand that problem. So if we use the flowchart, then easily we can understand. As I already told you, in place of text or sentences, if we use the diagram, that it is very easy for the humans to understand. So it is a pictorial representation of algorithm. So it increase the readability. It means we can read easily by the flowcharts. Complex programs can be drawn in a simple way. It helps team members get an insight into the process and use the knowledge to collect data, detect problem, and develop softwares. A flowchart is a basic step for designing a new process. Communication with other people become easy if you use the flowcharts. So here I will talk about when to use flowcharts. So in most importantly use when a programmers make projects. So whenever any programmer make any software or project, so if we represent that information or that process in a form of flowchart or in a graphic, then it is easy for us to make a software of that from that flowchart. When the flowchart of a process are drawn, the program understands the non-useful parts of the process. Optimize a process become easier with the help of flowchart. Flowchart serves as a communication channel to the people who are working on a same project for better understanding. So there are different types of flowcharts that we use, like process flowchart and data flowchart. As lots of types of flowchart, but here I will discuss only two types of flowchart, that is process flowchart and next is data flowchart. So process means to represent a process. Whenever we want to make anything, it follows the process. Firstly we use these types of things, then after we use again next types of things. So anything start from the process. At the end of the process we get the information. So flowchart is process flowchart and data flowchart. In process flowchart, this type of flowchart shows all the activity that are involved in making a product. A process flowchart is the most commonly used in process engineering. And if I'm talking about the data flowchart, then it name suggests that is data, and we want to show any data, so we can use a flowchart. Flowchart is used to analyze the data, and whenever we want to analyze data, then we can use the data flowcharts. So different types of boxes we use to represent a flowchart. Boxes means we can use different type of shapes. So here there are lots of boxes that we use. Like first terminal, this is oval like shape, that is which is used to start and end the process. Like that we can use a start and end. This is called the oval like shape, which is used to indicate the start and end of the process. So this is a diagram where you can see which type of oval we can use to represent any start and end of the process. So here this is a start and this is the end, and in between there will be body of flowchart. Now this is the data. Whenever we want to represent any data, then we can use this rectangle, this parallelogram. This parallelogram shape, inside which we can read for the input and output purpose, we can use this parallelogram. So first one, which is called oval like shape, which is used to start and end the process. Next one is data. For represent data for the input and output data, then we can use parallelogram. For the it looks like that. Start and for the start and end the process, we use oval like shape. For the input and output, we use parallelogram. This is called the process diagram, in which whenever we want to represent any process, then we can use rectangle. So this rectangle box, inside which programmer writes the main course of action of the algorithm or main program. So if the programmer wants to add 1 to the input given by the user, she would make the follow flowchart. So this is the, whenever we want to add numbers, then we can use this type of flowchart. For the end and start, we can use oval. For the input and output purpose, we can use parallelogram, and for the process, we can use this rectangle. Now whenever we want to take a decision for the decision purpose, we use this diamond like shape. Decision means when if I have two number, that is 5 and 4, and if we want to take a decision that if someone asks you which number is greater, then we can use here a decision like situation. This is what the decision like situation, where I have to find the number greater than from the another number. So this is the situation where I will use this decision like shape, which is called diamond like shape. So here I can write the condition. If a is greater than 2, then you can print left hand side box. If a is less than b, then you can use left side of condition. This is what the condition. So there are different types of condition we have, like you find a greater number, find the negative number, find the greater number between the two numbers. So these are the situation where we have conditions. So for the condition purpose, we use a diamond like shape. Now the flow, whenever we want to show any flow, then here we use a arrow like shape. In this diagram you can see start, and then for input, then after condition, if the condition are yes, then you can go from this side. If the condition is no, then you can go from that side, and after that you can print the number. At the end of the process, there is the end in the oval. So this is what a diagram in which it is find which number is greater than so this is a example of how can we use a flow chart. So as I already told you, start and end process. For the start and end the process, we use oval like shape. For the decision, we use a diamond like shape. For the process, we use rectangle, and whenever we want to give an input and output, here we use a parallelogram. So this is what the flow chart. Now there is a different type of advantages and disadvantages related of flowchart anything contain features, advantages and disadvantages. So if I already talk about if I want to share some information, and in place of text or sentences, if I use flowchart or graphics or interactive pictures, then it will easy for the humans to understand. So again, this is advantage of flowchart. It is very easy for us to understand anything. It provide a good communication if we use this flowchart, or if we use the graphics. So it is the most effective efficient way of communicating. It act like a guide or blueprint during programs. It helps in debugging process. Using flowchart we can easily analyze the program. Flowchart are good. So using flowchart we can easily analyze the programs. So now the disadvantages of flowchart. Then flowcharts are difficult to draw for the large and complex program. Whenever we have problems that is small, or the question is very small, then we can use the flowchart to represent. If the program are large and complex, then it's difficult to draw that flowchart. It does not contain a proper amount of details because the shapes are less, so we can represent the information that is which is not in proper amount. And flowcharts are very difficult to reproduce, and flowcharts are very difficult to modify. So this is what the flowchart. So it is helpful for us, but sometimes it is not helpful. So this is what the flowcharts. And thank you so much.